Behind the Shades.
We spent especially the last 2 years. I know we touched on that the last time we spoke. We spent the last 2 years being too serious.
Yeah.
Too serious, right? We want to protect ourselves in ways that we didn't even think about before, right? You stay over there, you stay here. If you don't have a piece of paper, you can't even come outside. But I think we just need to figure out. I gave this example. Someone interviewed. I gave this example. I was driving my mother. I was driving a family member, to the hospital. Nothing life-threatening. I saw two kids running. These kids are running up and down like kids do. Like we probably did when we were young, right?
Sure.
They fell. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, two kids have fallen. They looked at each other. They started laughing. Giggling. And they got back up and they started running some more. When was the last time we did something silly?
But legit, let me tell you something. The other day, I fell. There's no bouncing back up at 45. You got to take it. I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be a slow process of getting back up. So there's some youth. Youth helps some of that. But you're right. We got to find that in ourselves, find our vitality and our youthfulness and our playfulness. And relax a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for that. And you're right. I seen some people fall. It seems funnier. When it's an older person falling, it just seems more funny. Yeah. And I feel bad when I laugh. So sometimes I'll turn my face away, like, and you laugh in your chest or in your arm. Like it's like a sneeze, right? But, because that's how we're doing it these days, right? But
Great.
But you want that. You want that because being an adult is stressful enough. Being an adult entrepreneur is stressful enough. Being an adult entrepreneur and a parent is stressful enough, right? Like we all say that we want to be young forever, but we don't behave like we want to be young forever. We just want to live forever doing things that may not bring us the most joy. And that's where I find it's a lot to deal with. And it's unfortunate because it's tough out there. It's tough.
So I want to read you something. So the other day, just yesterday, I went to here in San Francisco at the DeYoung Museum. There's an exhibit of Judy Chicago's work. Are you familiar with her at all? Have you ever come across her artwork?
I have not, but tell me about it, please.
Cool. Google her, check her out. So Judy Chicago is, primarily known as a feminist artist. And she, was really the beginnings of her work were kind of like in the 70s. Certainly very dominant in the 80s, but she's continuing, to do work today, even, she's into her 80s. And her most present day work was really, there was this kind of series of etchings on black glass and exploring death. But I want to just read, so she writes, so she does the image and then she'll write. And she says, in 1947, Albert Camus, I'm not sure, said, "Some of us feel such a desperate weariness, a weariness from which nothing remains to set us free except death." And what you were just saying there just made me think about that, and I particularly took a picture of that because I think I've been feeling that a lot this year, like weariness and, all of the stresses and pressures around like taking care of my mom and trying to navigate that. I don't know if I've talked about that on the show, but my mom is 85. She has Alzheimer. She's in a nursing home in St. Louis. And, the degree of like neglect and like teetering on abuse, right? And trying to get resources for her and get people at the facility to respond and just do their actual jobs. and it's just exhausting and daunting, and and yeah, like everything that's happening in our world, and it seems like we're going backwards in a lot of ways, and that weariness, and so we can be very easily consumed by that. And so how do we press through, and how do we find that balance? Like, we're kind of talking about, like, how do we stay tapped into youthfulness and joy and vitality, even as sometimes it does feel like life is wearing us down. Yeah.
I agree. And I feel bad that you're going through what you're going through with your mother. Um, to lose one's mind, or to start to lose one's mind, is one of the scariest things for me. And I could just imagine someone who is going through it, because I know quite a bit of the illness of Alzheimer. I know how it impacts people. And some days you won't even recognize the person because of their behavior. And when they look at you, they don't know who you are.
They don't know you. Yeah.
They don't know you. So I think as a world, we need to seriously pay attention to mental health, because not only of what your mother is going through, but you as the caregiver, you're going through your own battle just doing that. Put away the outside world for a minute. Taking care of someone who's going through something like that is not easy.
Right.
So I can imagine the difficulty that you're going through, especially when the professionals, there's that struggle, because they're going through what they're going through too, because to be on the front lines in the last couple of years, I could just imagine the overload for them, right? So this is not me minimizing what your mother is going through. It's just you have the facility stressed. You have your mother going through what you're going through. You have what you're going through as well. Put that all in one jar. What is the expectation now?
Exactly. Yeah, we're all stretched too thin. I mean, and it's, such a overall crisis. I mean, you can get very philosophical about it. It has a lot to do with like how we think about elders, I think, particularly in the States. I think it has a lot to do with families becoming, less the core or the center, and becoming more, stretched and spread out and less connected. And there's that. We have a healthcare crisis, like, no doubt. Like, just the systems that are in place for even getting resources are really broken. And, the people in the facility who are responsible for providing the day-to-day care, they're undervalued, they're underpaid, they're overworked, even before the pandemic, right? And then double, down on that. And you have these, like the company that oversees my mom's facility, make billions of dollars in their coffers. And you can't, make sure that somebody's there, getting her dressed every day, right? So there are these huge gaps, and you feel like you're battling an entire system, and you can't do that, or at least I can't. So, like, what can I do? And trying to focus on the day to day. And a lot of times that's just, in the work of trauma healing that I do, in life in general, when we're facing very big things, it almost always for me comes down to, like, what's my best next step? Like, what's the smallest next thing that I can do to try to address the situation or the problem? And yeah, Terrain, like, this has been going on. I mean, my mom was diagnosed, I want to say in 2005. No, that's not right. That's not right. 2000, like maybe 17, 18. But the process of watching that deterioration, like, you go through, I was struggling for a really long time until a coach colleague of mine defined it for me and labeled it as pre-grieving. I was like, wow, yeah, that's a really good way to think about this, because you're grieving the loss of the person, even though they're physically still alive, the relationship or being known by that person, the experiences, the memories are, and then, feeling disempowered by a system that makes it so very difficult. It feels like just the basics. Could we just get the basics handled, Oh, goodness me. So that's been tough this year, and it's, kind of escalated, and as she's getting older, and for me, there's also the layer of frustration with my siblings who are just not engaged at all. And so like I every once in a while have this like redhead eruption of anger. I'm like, motherfucker, like I just get so resentful, right? Like it's on me. I'm the baby and like, you know, I'm the youngest. And it makes me so angry at times that they just basically have checked out, like, no, we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to, you know, it's too hard for us to face. So I have to work with that too, right?